we're gonna let Brett follow. So here we go. So the first old business is an extension of PO 2252, 2253, 2254, and 2255. We're going back to 2022 for Hudson Chrysler Jeep Dodge. Is Mr. Ovius here representing? You representing him?
Yes.
Okay. They're asking to extend the date another 12 months. If you'd like to come up front and center.
Good evening. Pretty short and simple. The Huddigs looking to get an extension on their current variances. There's still the issues of the extension of the sewer district that prohibit development in this area of the town. So that's prohibited us from moving forward. In addition, the Huddigs have had some personal issues, if I'm aware, that have set them back a little bit. But really, we've been meeting with Chrysler Jeep Dodge to move the project forward, but it hasn't been until actually about a week ago that the town, the city, and the state agreed for the extension of the sewer just for the county airport piece, and they only did the county airport piece. So Tom Miller Road and other areas are still up for debate. So,
okay.
Well, yeah, so nothing's changed in our application. All facts are still the same. And no change in the zoning requirement, so it's really just an extension so that we can.
And we don't need to do a public hearing on this, right? Board members have any questions?
So this is just waiting for the municipalities to decide whether the sewer is going to be extended on Tom Miller? Is that what we're waiting for?
Basically, the state has issued a consent order on the city telling them they have to upgrade their sewer system. And the state has told the city that they are not allowed to expand the district or add any users more than 2,500 gallons a day until they fix things. And the city has yet to comply with those requirements. And because the town drains into the city, that means this town cannot extend the sewer district or put any large users on until the city fixes their problem. So it's a battle between the three of them.
All right, so any board member like to make a motion to extend this for another 12 months?
So much is.
And is there any?
But this has been extended once already?
No.
No?
Yes, it was.
Yes.
That was the issue we just talked about.
Yeah.
Oh.
So this is the thing that they have case law of extending something past two times of extension. You have case law of if a project has not substantially moved forward, then you have to reconsidering it. How many times does the board consider issuing an extension on a variance that hasn't moved forward?
Didn't we have that up in Katyville?
We did have that.
They never built even the third year, right?
That is correct.
Yeah, and we did give them an extension.
Yes. So it was up to the two. The third one we said, no, if you're not going to build it, it's taken off the table.
Right.
So that may be something you want to be duly noted.
We gave them an extension on the third year. Or
Yeah, there was Cumberland had one too on
Yeah.
Sunnyside Drive that we actually had them tear it down.
Okay. Questions, comments?
Well, what are you saying? Are we not, if we approve it, would be going against?
No. If we approve it
third.
and nothing happens, he has to come back and reissue for all the existing variances again.
Okay.
So that's all it is.
Or
So hopefully you get it done within a year or so.
Understood.
Okay. Hopefully. Yeah.
But then we just keep, okay. We're just setting more precedent on top of things about extending continuations 3 times.
I think he said it was the third time. This is only our second. That's what we
Yeah,
have.
so-
So you look at case law of what the circumstances are surrounding the extension. There's case law, and Matt can speak to this. There's case law saying why you should not. If something just will not go forward for financing for X, for Y, the whole Z, you have to have proof of what the circumstances is that is pushing this variance to then continue to hang out and not be executed on.
So I think you're okay to grant the continuation this time.
I think I'd make it clear this is the last one that'll be granted. I think I'd make a finding of fact that there's an extenuating circumstance that the sewer holdup or the sewer issue is what's really holding us up. It's not like the applicant is sitting there with money ready to go and not doing it. So there's a lot of it, so to speak, out of their hands, which I think that's a factual finding you should make. But I think if you make it clear that this is the last one, at least they'll know next time they have to come with a new application, so they're not delayed a month by coming to ask for continuance. I think if you do all those things, you're defensible this time.
Except the zoning laws can change, right? That's the risk that they run.
The risk they take, yeah.
Okay.
I can't repeat what he said.
All you have to say is that this is the last variance or extension that's going to be granted.
Put your hand behind my head when you're talking. This is gonna be the last extension we were gonna put up for vote tonight, okay?
Due to the extenuating circumstance.
Any second?
I'll second.
Any show of hands on that? And a roll call vote.
Henry Gale,
Yes.
Basil Forrest,
Yes.
Roger Black,
Yes.
Mary Ann Alexandra,
Yes.
Patrick Duhane.
Yes.
You're good.
Yeah. You got
Thank
it.
you.
All right.
Now we're on to new business.
New business.
Well, it's still old because it was.
Yeah.
Maybe the old business report, draw continuations.
Okay, so skip by it. Okay. For old business, this is just gonna be, they asked for another 30 days. This was appeal 2320 on 9 Point Cliff Drive. They asked for a 30-day continuation until October meeting due to being out of town on business.
So we will have a public hearing portion of this meeting. Is anybody here that would like to speak to this matter? Not seeing anybody, we will close the public hearing portion of the meeting.
Do you want me to read? We did have,
There was one letter, I think.
yes, one letter.
Read that into the record.
Yes, sir. This was September 5th from, I'm going to say this name probably incorrectly, but Raj, what is it?
Hammernick?
No.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean them, yes.
Yes, Hammernick. Dear Mr. Imhoff, this is a reference to your notice received 28th of August 2024 of the Town of Plattsburgh Zoning Board meeting scheduled for the 10th September 2024 to consider appeal number 2320 concerning property at 9 Point Cliff Drive. The owner, Mr. Sepsi, is requesting a setbacks variance for a prefab shed. As the owners of nearby properties, we are adamantly opposing the granting of this variance. This is a residential area that is slowly becoming commercialized and degraded by the lack of adherence of zoning regulations. Homes were originally built to have been expanded on limited-sized lots, requiring any further additions to collide with zoning issues. We already now have a mini hotel with attendance, additional traffic, and parking issues at the end of Point Cliff that used to be nice wooded residential areas. While this is not Mr. Sepsi's issue, his variance request of a 50% change in the setback zoning regulations just another change to the detriment of the neighborhood, especially to the properties immediately adjacent to 9 Point Cliff. Respectfully yours, Roger P. and Blanca Hammernick?
Yeah.
That's the only additional information that we've received.
Okay. Next one?
You granted 30 days.
Is it granted?
Oh, Brandon.
Well, make the motion.
Just I make a motion, we grant it.
No second.
Continue.
For 30 days, okay. Show of hands and a roll call vote.
Henry Hill,
Yes.
Basil Forrest,
Yes.
Roger Black,
Yes.
Mary Ann Alexandra,
Yes.
Patrick Duhane.
Okay. Old business, Appeal 2318, Mr. Ilanovich. You guys like to come up front and center? They're asking for Cateville Auto Truck and Sales at 1933 Route 3, allowed to request to operate a car sales auto business, which is not allowed in a neighborhood commercial district. Mr. Baker has all the overhead slides that were submitted to us and the information that we can go over first.
Here's an aerial view. This is the property located here on the corner of Gatto Road and Route 3. Our town park is over here in Katyville. There it is with the district, the NC district in light green. There's a closer view of the property. That's a picture from today. And this is a sketch plan provided by Mr. Yodlovich. Gentlemen, all yours.
Hi. Basically, the building originally was built as a garage. To do anything else there, permitted neighborhood commercial, would probably require taking down the garage and starting over, taking down the current structure. Convenience store, out of most of the uses that could go on there, the only ones that really would be feasible would be a convenience store, gas station. And with the Dollar General next door now, that kind of wipes out any chance of a convenience store making it. And the tanks and pumps were removed in 2020. So we looked a little bit into that, and you're talking minimum $500,000 to just do the outside infrastructure for a gas station again. That's not anything to do with the inside of the building, which would need, to do that type of business, it would have to be pretty much all redone. Where with the cement block, the walls, the headers and all that stuff still existing from before. To put garage doors back in would make it fairly easy to convert that over to a repair center. And the general area, right across the road on Gatto Road to the right, if you're looking at that, there was a auto sales and repair there, I think from 2005 to 2017, right around there. And he closed and moved out of the area. So there is a need in the area of Katyville for inspections, light repairs, emergency stuff like that. And that's pretty much it.
Could you guys identify yourself for the record?
I'm Matthew Yanulovich.
Brian Yanulovich. That didn't go down to the county, huh? Because it's on the state road?
It did go to the county.
I did go to the county.
I didn't see any, unless I missed it.
This one was,
This one went down last.
2 months ago.
2 months
Two
ago.
months ago.
Month and a half.
Yeah.
Month and a half ago.
I mean,
We already took care of that project.
all right. When you do the balancing test for the, too many papers, for a use variance, there are several items that you have to show the reason why things will not fit into that area, is that you've gone over some of them right now. I don't have the total list. You have the total list, yes.
I brought it. A lot of them, the size of the property, take it out, and the location on the corner of Route 3 and Gatto Road, the county landfill is down Gatto Road. So that area does get a lot of truck traffic, tractor trailers, smaller trucks, twin dump trailers. So to do anything like residential there, it's not really the greatest area.
The, what is the actual size of that?
It's just an acre.
Just an acre?
Yeah.
Thank you, Brett. So when you look at some of the uses that you stated in your verbiage here was condominium, townhouse, agricultural definitely would not work there. I don't think it's unfair golf course, recreation facility. Most likely does not have enough square footage there for that, and definitely not a hospital. That's animal hospital. Some of the other ones here, place of worship, financial institution, greenhouse, health and fitness center. What would you think about any of those uses on that property?
Well, the issue is we don't have any way to validate whether any other business would be allowed because it wasn't marketed as such. I mean, all we're gonna do is go based on the people that are in front of us to determine whether another business would be allowed or be financially feasible.
It goes by all the different functions that are allowed there.
Right, but what the applicant is supposed to show you is a lack of financial return. So what they're supposed to show you is if we converted this to a greenhouse,
Right.
costing X number of dollars, our financial return would be X over this many years, that's not plausible. What they're doing is sitting here and saying, we don't want to do those things, we don't think they're gonna work. That's not competent financial information. So I think the application, at least on that aspect, is significantly lacking in the information this board needs. Because just on the face of it, some of these other allowed uses are very plausible here on the face of it. You need to know why they couldn't turn this into the things you just listed, Mr. Hale. You know, the last couple, you know, what the financial cost would be to get into those businesses and then what the return. It's not an immediate return. It's not like you're going to invest a couple $100,000, get a return right away. It's a return to running a business down the road.
I'm trying to remember, there was one recently that we went through almost the same thing. Can't think of what it is now. Well, anyways, I'm going to open the public hearing portion of the meeting up, and anybody here like to speak to this matter? And not seeing anybody raise their hand, we will close the public hearing portion of the meeting. And have to look at the process of showing the financial reasons why it won't work. I know you went through some of the items to say to turn it back into a gas station, and you gave us some of the physical and
So more of that.
yeah.
We basically need more information, like Mr. Hale said.
It's not just that, like, I'm just gonna, the
right.
open space, the green space, possible other variances. What we had here shown is that you're showing uses on DOT right of way. That doesn't show any of the other info. So is there other variances that are required? If you don't wanna go variance, then hey, we need to come back on another variance. There's several other things when you're trying to get not an allowed use on there. You want to make sure that it actually fits on there. None of that was provided along with the dollars and cents.
That would come through the planning department.
Well, ideally would come here because you don't want to grant potentially variance now and then have the applicant come back to you a month down the road and say, based on our site plan. we
Right,
need
but I'm
3 or
just
4
saying,
more.
I mean, it's a chicken and egg situation. I mean, they can't move ahead with the planning department without a use variance, but the planning department would end up looking at all that.
There is a
stuff.
risk reward. So in order to do a development, you got to show X, Y, and Z. So not all are guaranteed when you're asking for a non-allowed use.
Mhm.
So you do got to put the chicken or cart before the horse sometimes and say, this is everything we need. But the plan that you guys are looking at,
I don't know that. I don't know. Reading it,
all the above. Like when it shows the one, if you can see it up there, DOT right of way. You have an entrance inside of there. There's open space. There's green space. Where do you park the cars? Where are the repairs going? Where do people drop their cars off? What is all that? That's the stuff that the planning board flushes out, not us. But you guys would want to know that info too, because it's the least amount of variances granted if you are entailed to grant the variance.
Right. So we're looking for more information. So we can get it tabled, or we actually should ask for a continuance so that you can get that information and tell us about how long you think you would need before you could get that information together.
Well, I guess I would just go through all the items and make sure they're not coming back 2, 3, 4 times. But as far as the marketing, I guess I don't understand how the property was supposedly marketed and there was nobody else interested in it because it's never been marketed. I mean, I live down the street. There's never been a for sale sign.
It was listed online.
Yeah.
Listen on one
Couple years.
commercial site.
The LoopNet?
I'm not
Because
sure
I didn't see it on
what
LoopNet
There,
either.
yeah, well, there's a letter from the realtor.
I was gonna say it had it 5
Yeah,
years.
yeah.
There was a letter in here
Mhm.
from the realtor.
But there were, I mean, no visible signs anywhere, and no one would have ever known that place was for sale.
Yeah, because I know there's a realtor that showed it a few times with the lockbox was there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Donovan Real Estate Services.
Yep. I'm just saying. I mean, to get a full marketability of it, 90% of the people out there, other than somebody looking at a commercial site, because I didn't see it on LoopNet over the last number of years.
Commercial edge.
But there's never been a sign on there for sale for anyone else who might have a use that is allowed to potentially say, oh, I would have, or I could have put a, XYZ there.
60 days.
You could probably ask for 90 days just to actually go through it.
Right. And as Steve had mentioned, though, more detailed plan as far as what vehicles are going where now.
Which we went to the planning board, did the sketch plan, and they said before we went any further with that, we'd have
to have a variance.
do this. And,
But we don't know how many variances you might need.
Right.
If you're gonna be
Right.
other things going on.
So you'd have to do a what if, I guess.
Yeah.
If it was allowed, then do you meet all the other,
So in that situation, that could take more than 90 days, I mean, to
right?
state DOT and,
Well, it wouldn't be the DOT. I mean, that's not an issue.
well, the DOT, I know the planning board, and the county both said the DOT, because of the way that corner's set up, there's no curbing or anything, it's all wide open.
Right.
So work with them, put green space, which that shows a little bit, but to work with the right of ways and,
Yeah,
put a
but
curbing
unfortunately,
in.
that's not the law.
Right, but that's what they said, you'd have to work with it'd actually be state DOT, because it's a state road there, state right of way, to see where they'd want the Dollar General next door, their actual property to get in there is through state DOT.
No, I know, but we're talking about green space, and you're talking about
Oh, yeah.
that DOT.
Yeah, like green space is shown in the back, like that'd be on the bottom of the picture,
Right,
that's over 30% there towards the neighbor behind,
okay,
which would be the first house on the right.
Carmen's.
Yeah. And that sketch was done up to get a sketch plan approval to start with something.
Did we get a copy of that?
This is what we got. This is
I don't know, maybe I missed it, but I don't see a sketch.
John's
plan.
last one, maybe.
It might have been the last one.
Blame it on my first one.
You guys have a sketch plan in your packet?
Yeah.
I don't know.
But it might have come out.
Yeah, it was more than likely provided to all of you last month.
Yeah.
Maybe you threw your packets away,
If I
and
wasn't here-
we didn't rerun everything to this month.
Or you went.
So you're looking for a continuation then,
Yeah.
or how many days before you want to come back?
I guess I'd ask for 90 and then see how I'm doing, working on all the other bridges we have to cross.
I mean, if they ask for a year, does it matter if they come back early?
Well, yeah, it would probably be better to do it that way.
Is that a problem?
It's just a problem when we have to publish it. So if we, like the last one, was it last one that we said that they were supposed to come back in 30 days, so we published it in 30.
Right,
But they're not, then they said, we already published it, we already put it in the paper, we already did everything
so
else.
they don't have to go apply, I mean, whatever.
We would
apply
have to,
you,
we would have to
notify
know,
you.
to know when to put it in the
Right.
paper legally, to
Mhm.
then have a public hearing.
Right.
That's the only
But they would
downfall.
have to notify.
Would have to give
They
us
have
the
the
information together.
30 days prior, or,
Yeah, before-
30 days prior to the meeting that they want to obtain.
Is it possible to withdraw the application?
Anytime.
And then just
If,
come back.
and it just,
Just goes
when we
away.
have it complete, put it all back in again?
Yeah, that's fine. There's no decision's been made, so that's.
So I'm better off doing it that way,
So-
so not having to find for it.
So if you withdraw,
Yeah.
then you start all over again. Okay, so
Which at this point, there's
the
nothing.
new fee, everything else,
Right.
but it's up
If you
to
ask
you.
for
If you
extension,
continue
then
it,
you don't
then
pay
you don't
again.
have to pay them.
You don't have to pay the fee if you continue.
If I do continuance for it. Ask for a year continuance and 7 months in, I can give a 30-day.
Just so they can get it.
Yeah.
Yep.
We'll ask for a year.
You just have to publish it 30 days before you come forward.
Okay.
You're not gonna wait any
So
time.
somebody's making a motion.
I'll make a motion to grant a
Year.
90-day, no, 1-year continuance.
1-year continuance,
Mhm.
okay? And a second on that?
Second,
And a show of hands, and then a roll call vote?
Henry Hill,
Yes.
Basil Forrest,
yes.
Roger Black,
Yes.
Marianne Alexandra,
Yes.
Patrick Duhane.
Yes.
All right, thank you, gentlemen.
Back to work.
Still got the issue.
This is another old business. This is a continuance from Appeal 2324, 2325, dated back to June 2024. That's a use variance and an area variance. You guys come up, sit right front and center. To refresh the memory of the board members and people in the audience, Brett is going to go, if you can go through all the details of where the two different variances, the area and the use variances, kind of go over both of them. Then we'll start with the use variance.
So we have Champlain Park on Cumberland Heads, Hedgerow, property where the home is located on 25 Genesee Lane is here. This adjacent field in the back has since been merged with the property of the home. There it is in the R3 district. You'll see here that this property and this property have been merged together. The proposed barn is to go out in the field. This is a picture of the home today. Farther down the lane on Genesee, there is a second access point to the property, which is pictured here. The applicant has provided some pictures for us to go over as well. This is a proposed picture of the barn. This is a site plot of the property here, along with the merged property. And then this is the proposed area where the barn would be put. I enlarged it so you can see a little bit better where it would be in relation to our town park and where it would be in relation to the homes. And then these are some other pictures provided. There we go, guys.
Thank you. Alright, hello, my name is Karen Benham, and this is my husband.
Thomas Coleman.
And we're here just to basically explain our overview for it. It's only a 4-stall barn, that's it. And then of course it'll have storage as well for our tractors. We're one of the few properties that actually, when it comes to the R3 district, in Champlain Park, there's only 2 properties that actually have acreage, which is Poor Onondaga, Titherington's, and ours. So we have a lot of equipment. Mind you, we moved here 5 years ago. We ended up owning the property, probably, I think we've owned it now for what, 3 years? And we've been slowly making improvements to the house internally, and we did the roof. We want to really start banging it out. As you saw from the photo, she needs some work, and we really want to start doing that. But we've noticed, to help with some of the costs since COVID happened, we all know everything's increased. So if we were able to bring our horses home, I've owned them one of them for over 20 years. It would actually help us cut costs. I would be saving about $500 a month. Bringing them home, being able to put that into our house. We love our community and where we live. We really want to, want to stay here for the long haul. I've also explained the expense, just like upkeeping it as an oversized backyard. We needed to buy a new tractor. We were trying to do it with a small lawnmower and then a tow behind, from hitting garbage ending up in our property to, just being not the proper equipment. We had to expand and get a bigger tractor, which we did this year. We also spend about $700 between ethanol and diesel. That's only about 80% of the property. This year, due to us having to get a new tractor, we weren't able to fully mow as much as we normally do this year. I've always been making sure that I at least get the perimeter a couple of times. That's something that I prefer. And like I said before, it's a kind of a unique property. There's only a few houses in Champlain Park with acreage. I did attach photos of Titherington's. You can see cows if you were to ride down Saranac Drive, Seneca, that you could see cows within right there. And I don't want any of that. I've actually vocalized at the previous one. I would be completely fine with a use variance specifically for horses, no other animals, no other anything. I have provided manure management. I do have a letter from my institute as well. I'm not sure if, oh, okay. I've been in agriculture for a very long time. It's not my career. My career is accounting, believe it. So it's just more of a passion of mine. So this is kind of an idea. This will be on the south side. So it would not be visible. I want to put shrubs on the other side of it, so like it would not be visible to the naked eye. Also, that does help as well. Having manure management like this also prevents excessive runoff, or really kind of prevents a lot. I've also attached a lot of articles and research on vegetative buffers. My horses would not have full access to the property, and the big reason for that is to give us a vegetative buffer. What that will do is to make sure no nitrates, no debris. It's, you know, like with a pond, you know, you have a lot of vegetation and that will kind of filter out the nitrates and stuff like that. It's kind of more of an extra security belt besides proper manure management. With the proper manure management, that's going to kill parasites. It's especially like with the one that I want, also doesn't make it accessible to critters, because as you fill up, you put down your wood, so it closes up eventually. And what happens is it retains the heat and will turn into compost, and then you have black gold right there. The other thing is that I would be using is fly predator. Like I said, I'm a horse person, not anything else type of person. So there's a thing called fly predator. You can spread it all throughout your property. You can even put it in the manure. And what it's really fascinating, it's these little larvae that basically they eat the fly larva. So flies can't survive. And it's just the coolest thing ever to prevent any XF problems, because you know, I don't want to disturb my neighbors. I don't want to cause a ruckus. You know, that's why for the small building in the first place, I want to keep it very discreet and very minimalized. Same with the horse fencing that I would be putting up. Once again, it would not go throughout the entire property, and would be away from houses. I do not want my horses right up next door to houses. Like the cows were, that is too close to me. Like no, they would be further away. And the fencing I chose here, I wanted to give a visual. This is very safe. Actually, that top railing is actually what Titterington's uses for his horses. He just has more. I don't want that, just in case as a climbing accessibility. So I like this because not only does it prevent, like, goodness, someone's dog were to get loose, they can't just instantly go underneath the fence. They can't do anything. It's like a protective barrier for my horses and everyone else outside it. And another reason I was picking more of a darker color, because from a distance, that doesn't stand out. Don't get me wrong, I love a classic white fence. But for discreet, I would prefer going with something that would be dark. But I would be willing to match any aesthetics. Did you get the other image, like where it shows the paddocks? Yes, that. So also my horses on really bad weather, this is something practices that almost all the barns up here in upstate New York practice, at least especially the ones that I've worked at, is you have paddocks. It would only be on one side of my barn, so most likely with the 3 openings right here. And what that does is it's going to be lined with geocell. There are these grids. You fill them in with crushed stone and then you top them off with sand. The reason for doing that is prevent mud. Horses do not do well with mud. You know, no hoof, no horse. That is very valid. So in bad weather, they would not be going out, but they would still have their place to move around and have excess space. And on top of it, if they were to get sick, it kind of offers as if a hospital stall, because, you know, horses, they just love trying to do silly things. So it's kind of a good measure, and it also protects my pastures, because in rain or in weird spring months, you wouldn't want a bunch of mud, and you know, nobody wants a bunch of mud. So this is where we would fight that. And I was gonna say the aesthetics, like of the barn that we have chosen. I've just showed a plain, basic brown barn, but I could get it with siding as well. We can have that completely vinyl siding. Like, we have some ideas for the vinyl siding we want for our house, and so we could have it completely match that as well. We don't have to go with just all natural wood. I like the wood, but you know, if someone says no, we would prefer it to look this way, I would be more than fair to jump for that. I have some of the other attachments that he has. I did attach a few let's see, elevations too, to kind of explain the water flow of how the water flows on our property. It's kind of a interesting way. I always, in case anyone wants to see, so the barn would be up here, so it is higher above. Another reason why I'm being so strict with the manure, mind you, those aren't going to be right on grass. Those bins are going to be on gravel, like the crushed stone that the foundation will be on as well. And the foundation was recommended by the builders of the barn for these types. So it wouldn't be directly on the ground. Once again, another buffer preventing runoff. But if we have here, you can kind of see it kind of does a weird hill up. Like, so really this is my biggest concern here for runoff. And the way that it works, if you were to look here, it doesn't show up, but there's actually like a culvert from the town, from the park all the way here. And then it kind of switches over here.
I think you can see it in one of the other photos, aerial views, yeah. I think it was the terrain one.
Yeah, the terrain view. And I'm using that kind of as my split for my horses to help also, once again, another buffer to prevent runoff, and to prevent anything going into the water or concentrating and bothering our neighbors. Is there the other aerial shot with the vegetation? I'm sorry. There it is.
You can, the darker green lines there.
Yeah, there's, is that okay if I stand up?
Yeah.
So, we have the park right here. You see these divots. They continue up and go all the way up here. You'll see that we even have another one right here for irrigation. They've always been there. Trust me, I hate it with my tractor because I'll be like, yay. Kind of like a little bit of a abrupt ditch. So those were put into place kind of as some guidance, which is, I mean, for this area over here, kind of helps as a good protectant. Like I said, that's why I'm using so many measures for manure management to prevent runoff. I've been doing this for, let's see, probably about close to 20 years working with horses and barn management. I did it all throughout college, but you know I was doing a different degree choice. I used to work at a barn up in Peru, probably about 15 years ago, managing 30 plus horses. My goal is to avoid anything like that. That's how I know some of those other tricks to avoid flies or anything, because when you have a horse boarding facility, it's not like a normal farm. We don't want an excessive amount of flies. We don't want mosquitoes. We don't want any of this, especially with EEE going on right now. We want to avoid that. Sure, our horses are vaccinated, but right now it's on the rise in this area. I'm sure you guys have heard of it right now. So it's a real fear and a real concern. So we do a lot of things to protect and keep it at bay. And it's one of the things that, you know, I'll be honest with you, it's kind of cool. There's some science to it. You know, your manure pile kind of becomes like a little science experiment. So in a good way, like you have to keep it at a certain temperature. Too hot, you'll start killing the good bacteria. Too low, you can actually start building the bad bacteria. It's actually kind of when it gets too wet, that's when you can have, you know, excessive smells and stuff like that. It starts getting a sour smell because it really should be an earthy smell. You know, if it's going right, it should be like black gold, you know, fertilizer. So the other thing is my pastures are not going to be all the way out here. Another reason for that is I can't see them. I actually work from home. My office is actually in this back room right here, so I can keep an eye on them. Just kind of paranoid horse mom person. And really, so the barn would be going about right here, and the pasture would be following this. They don't need a lot of space. One of them's almost 30. She's actually insulin resistant. Grass can be a death sentence for her. I have a mini. Grass and minis just don't mix. They get bad off air. I'm not sure if you've ever gone to the fair and you see ponies and they look like they're little helium balloons and little legs. So I do have a younger quarter horse. She is my daughter's 4-H horse, show horse, and my upcoming show horse, who they can be out, but guess what? They don't like to be horses. They actually prefer being in the stall. Another reason why I had to make sure I had a decent barn, because if it's not approved, some of my horses are very bougie and they like their space.
Okay. Board members have any questions that they would like to ask?
I do, for clarification. So when you got the property, were you renting it at first? As you said, you were here 5 years and then you owned it 3 years?
So my dad had the house first, and we kind of
Okay.
went there to live with him to help him out and such. And my mother had kind of started neglecting the field, and it wasn't getting mowed.
So you had the field as well. It was not purchased. It was part of that,
Yeah.
or it's just
I
separate
had
from it, you merged them.
Yeah, they were separate.
Okay.
I actually got the field first, and that was kind of, was it a year before the actual house? Because I was helping my mom pay taxes beforehand, and then I was like, hey, I'm the one spending all this money on mowing and stuff like that. Can you just give it to me? And she signed it over. We had her lawyer and everything do the transfer. And then we decided, we're like, wow, we really, with our child, because my daughter was born in 2019, so that was also like the year that we moved there. And I was like, this is just too perfect. And we decided to stay. We started fixing up the house. Really started fixing up once it went to our name. But it's been getting slower and slower with the increases of prices, and I'm like, I just really want to make her home a home.
So where are your horses now? They're not at your property. They're at
a boarding facility.
Okay, so that's $500 a month.
No, 12.
Okay.
$1,200 a month. But I mean, that's, I don't know. I think it's cheaper than therapy at this point.
Okay, so that's what I had. I had $500 a month. So that's
That's just the savings, because it would be
Yeah.
estimated
Okay.
$700 a month to actually have that
Right,
small barn
for
and
mowing and
care for themselves.
Well, or like even like us getting the barn, like even with us taking out a loan for the barn, it's still going to be cheaper than $1,200 a month. I mean, we can afford that, but it slows down the progress of our house. And the longer that we've been here, we're like, this is not moving as fast as originally we had anticipated. We do. We love the area and we love our house, but I'm like, I really want to get it finished and fixed up. So this would help increase that process. Like, we would eventually would love to do additions to the house, add a garage. I really want to get the driveway cleaned. So we have all these plans, and because when we got once everything started rolling, that house had never been updated. That was original 1950, so we've been slowly chipping away and updating it. And, you know, now we want to start getting to the outside.
Anybody else?
Yeah, just again for clarification purposes. You will be fencing in a portion of
Yes.
that property?
Yes,
And then you want a vegetation border outside the fence?
so the vegetative portion is really the, you know, the pre-existing field. I'll continue to mow it because mowing grass actually does help absorb water and everything. I wouldn't just let it sit. So it would still need to be maintained, but it would still be less than what I'm maintaining now. It's one of those, the further away that the manure is, especially towards the lake or low points, the more of a filtration it has. So I'm giving it a big wide belt to be filtered for. I don't, you know, I mean, my horses are, we don't want manure. We don't want smell. I'm sure if you guys ever took your kids to certain boarding or farms for riding lessons, you know, we're very picky about certain things. We're different than like if you were to go to a dairy farm. You know, clean and tidy. At least the barns that I've been at. You know, I'm not gonna lie, mine are spoiled me a bit.
Okay.
And they actually.
Also, how part of that vegetative barrier works is because of those trenches there. Part of it is you're supposed to lead the water to plants that actually excessively will absorb that water that has those nutrients.
And those,
as you can see, those are all willow trees out there, which are pretty heavy absorbers.
Yes, they are.
So it already does have a lot of natural setup barriers.
Anybody else? We will open up the public hearing portion of the meeting. Everything that was said last month has been into the records already. So if you have anything to say that's new, you can come up to the mic and state your name. And we ask you to keep it to 2 to 3 minutes worth of verbiage.
Hi, my name is Michelin Houle. I live at 419 Cumberland Head Road. My backyard butts up right up against theirs. They're showing those trenches of water that they say is running towards the lake and so on. That runs right through my backyard. And because my backyard is probably about here.
yeah,
This is her house. I'm about here.
No.
no.
You're right here.
You're here.
Oh, okay, yeah, right here. So, we spent a fortune on putting French drains in that house because we had the sump pump running for months in the spring, when we had rain, so on and so forth. So we put French drains in that house and had everything flow through the basement, daylight at the ditch, and then run into the lake. If I got manure running through there, because you know, she says she's gonna put them in those bins or whatever. What happens when those bins are full? Where does it go?
Well, then
You know, it doesn't matter, Karen. You know, I mean,
And address the board now.
right. So, well, likewise. So that's number one. She's claiming that it's gonna cost her a fortune for the animals. It can't cost that much to mow the lawn back there. It's not just to do the perimeter. Okay. And then when you say when she said she had that working at a barn in Peru, was that in the residential area? I doubt it. And I don't know what else I had to say. I'm just totally against it. The flies are going to be astronomical. She can put plants all she wants. That's not going to stop the smell. It's not going to stop flies. It's not going to stop, you know, the quality of your life is totally going to be deteriorated with animals back there. They tried it 15 years ago with pigs.
That wasn't me.
She tried it. Somebody in that family tried it with pigs 15 years ago, and we're back at this again. So, you know, just the quality of life. I just want to sit in my backyard by my swimming pool and enjoy my backyard. And if I'm inundated with flies, you know, everything else, that's another concern. So.
Thank you.
Before the next person comes up, point of clarification, the audience is directing all their comments to the board, not to the applicant. Applicant will please remain quiet. If something wants to be followed up, the board will address you, okay?
Yes.
All right, next, please.
I'm Susan McGauley. My husband and I, we live at 425 Cumberland Head Road. We did write a letter last month. We are against this project. I just think that I don't want horses back there. I don't want the smell, the same thing that Michelin had said. And I think Plattsburgh Bay is polluted enough. It doesn't need anything more going into it.
Thank you.
My name is Jim Cross. I live 4 houses down from Karen. I have known the family for over 40 years. Her grandparents were my neighbors until they died. And I mean, I'm glad that she mentioned a couple of things. One, when Roger, her grandfather, was alive, he was always complaining to me about the houses over there throwing their garbage, their limbs, trash into their yard. And I haven't been over there since Roger died, but I would bet you there is a lot of stuff over there that shouldn't be on their property. And I am all for it. I wouldn't care if they put the horse barn down in front of my house. I enjoy having the field out there. And horses are not cows. They are clean animals.
Right.
And there's already one horse barn that is on one side of Cumberland Head or on Champlain Park. Another one's not going to hurt. I'm all for it.
Thank you.
Bill Plimpton. I live at 415 Cumberland Head Road, which is actually right here, just off the screen. This is the One Seneca entrance. I submitted a packet last month. I do have some new information after sitting here. I don't think she met any of the requirements tonight in our presentation. About a reasonable return, hardship, altering the essential character of the neighborhood, and that the hardship wasn't self-created. As stated, she's lived at the property for 3 to 5 years, plenty of time to research the zoning laws. This is R3 that we're talking about. All 4 of those have to be proven in order to get the variance approved. I don't think she demonstrated any of those tonight. Talking about the value, you people understand that. We keep hearing 4 on and dog, one other property, which I'm assuming is Pellerin property, the old BC well drilling, old Bill Colvard, having property. R3, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you have 5 acres, 50 acres, 500 acres. Farm animals are not permitted. This is a dense neighborhood. Houses are closer. Take advantage of the water and sewer. 4 Onondaga was never part of Champlain Park. That was part of the old Cook farm, the old Trudeau Lapeer farm that stretched from Cumberland Head Road to Cumberland Head Road. The whole reason houses weren't put in there was because of the sewer system in Champlain Park not being able to handle the houses that they want to put in there. That's when Tetherington went in. He's pre-existing. He's grandfathered in. There were no horses there today. He'd be here trying to do the same thing. Same with Colbart. If he was still alive and wanted to run the business, he'd be here trying to get a variance. Can you go back to the one picture of Seneca? So the town knows there's water issues there. The simple fact is the property in question is 139 feet above sea level. I'm 109. Runs right through me, right to the lake. Here's a berm that the town built to stop water from coming here out of one Seneca, out of the field, into this gentleman's basement. The town put this in. If you go back to the Eagle view, that's the old McDonough farm. There is a ditch there. That's the old McDonough farm. There's nothing from there all the way down to the Straits until you get to the new blue salt box. The Champy sign, the little part, there's nothing there. This is always wet. Everest Park, Everest Rabideau Park is right there. This is new. If you want to just pass it down. It's the park, which the playground was now moved to the far end. That was one storm in August. And then the little river you see is what's leading from here to here. The town moved the playground part of the park over by the tennis courts because there was always standing water there. So, I mean, it sounds nice, it sounds good, but this is an R3 district where horses, or I'm sorry, farm animals not permitted. The 4 requirements that Ms. Bonham needs to meet. I don't think she's met them at all. This is a bad idea, and I'm against it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Just so you know, Mr. Plimpton, they did get your letter, so we will dispense from reading into the letter. They did get it. It's on record. It's on file. Same with
McCauley?
Yes. So because you spoke, yeah. So because you spoke, they're on there. They did get the copies of it because you spoke. We put on there, attended the meeting, you spoke. So it's not like they didn't get your stuff.
Oh, one other thing. I'm sorry. You know, the uniqueness stuff. I'm in R3. I have property. I can't put horses up. It's not unique to them. 4 Onondaga does not apply. Pellerins doesn't apply. It doesn't matter if you have 1,000 acres. It's an R3 district. The town spent all that money having that company come up and do the zoning laws. It's a dense area. It's a bad idea.
Anybody else like to speak to this matter?
Angela Constanti, I'm the neighbor at 18 Genesee Lane. I'm all for it, honestly. It used to be agriculture. I don't see any issues with it. She's taking proper management for it. I'm an animal lover, so, you know, I think I'm all for it, 100%. Definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else like to speak?
I'm Clayton Ray. I live at 423 Cumberland Head Road. Next to my neighbors, Michelin, Bill, the Magalis. And I question she's the looking for a variance due to hardship. And I say, if you take on a responsibility of horses, it's hard to imagine that you can claim it as a hardship. If that's where we're going with that. And I've heard her say, I just want to bring my horses home. Well, she's lived there for 4 years, 5 years, but the horses have never lived there. It, in truth, has never been the horses' home. And I would just, you know, those points. I'm not in favor. I, like Bill, am downhill of the planned barn.
Thank you. Anybody else? Seeing anybody, we'll close the public hearing.
You got your usual letter, right?
Yeah, we still have, 3 letters.
Read it, okay?
3 letters that are new letters, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. One was from, to Donna Premiano Maston, from Karen LaSalle. Hello, so was the email with a letter of support from, she is Karen LaSalle, a equine manager for Miners Institute Chazy. I came to know Karen Boheim as a summer experience in equine management student from May to August of 2017. She is an accounting major at SUNY Plattsburgh and not a typical student in that respect. But her dedication to proper horse husbandry stood out the year in a pool of qualified applicants. Following her summer internship, Karen worked part-time for Miner Institute for many years. I knew that if she was on the schedule to work in the barns, that the horses' stables were in capable hands. Karen has remained a friend and a client of Miner Institute over the years and is a contributing member of the equine community at large in the North Country. Karen's work ethic is excellent. Her pursuit of not only great care of horses, but the environment they live in was second to none. If Karen did not know exactly how to handle the situation, she would do her own research to offer input and suggestions to what she thought might be done. The barn always looked even better than I left it when Karen had a work shift. Her attention to detail is keen. I know she has utilized resources such as myself, veterinarians, and other reputable stable owners, and Miner Institute extensive library holdings and connections with UVM, Cornell Cooperative, to continually educate herself on best management practices for horses and the land they live on. Excuse me. If I can be of further assistance, please do not hesitate to contact me at lasalle@whminer.com or by my cell phone. Best regards, Karen LaSalle, Equine Manager.
I'll read the next one. It's from Michelle Rose, R-O-E-S. It says, good afternoon. I'm writing today to express my support for Karen Bonhomme, Appeals 2324 and 2325 on tonight's meeting agenda. My family and I reside at 21 Genesee Lane, 2 houses down the road from Karen Bonhomme. As being a direct neighbor, my husband and I do not have any concerns regarding the proposed project and feel it would have no direct impact on our property. Based on the proposed location of the structure on Karen's property, I believe there are only about 4 or 5 properties that will actually be able to view the horse barn from their yards, all of which have no complaints or reservations to my knowledge about Karen moving forward with this project. From my relations with Karen Bonhomme, I believe that she will be responsible with this project and her horses. We have been assured by Karen that there are no safety concerns and the horses will be properly contained and maintained. I do not believe the barn structure will detract from the property value of our home, Karen's home, or any other properties in this area. I truly believe my children will enjoy being able to see the horses from our backyard. There is another horse farm adjacent to Champlain Park, located off of Onondaga Lane, a few streets over from our home. This project is a much larger scale than what Karen Bonhomme is requesting. To my knowledge, there have been no complaints or issues, and it has not negatively impacted our area. Therefore, I do not see any reason why Karen should not be allowed to continue with her proposed project. Should you have any questions, you may contact me via email or by phone at, I'm not going to read her phone number, sincerely, Michelle Rose.
September 3rd, this was submitted by 443 Cumberland Head Road.
Oh, yes, I'm here, actually. I'm here.
Would you like me to read it, or would you?
Well, I can address it. I can stand up and.
Whatever you would like.
Yeah,
We can read it in. Some people don't like to.
I don't mind.
Go for
Yeah,
it.
I'll just.
Better your voice than mine.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Mary Ann Kirby. I live at 443 Cumberland Head Road. And I have some concerns, and some concerns Karen has addressed. My property, the topography, I'm lower than her property. And there's a significant amount of ponding that concerns me on Karen's property. With the E virus is now the thing. But prior to that, it drains into my property. When there's runoff, it runs from the ponding on Karen's property into my backyard, through my backyard, where there's erosion there and I can't grow grass. I'm concerned about the phosphorus and the nitrogen I understand her plan for handling the waste, doing some homework. Horses need, according to what I've read, an acre to graze. Overgrazing can cause more erosion and killing of the vegetation, which results in more runoff of the phosphorus and the nitrogen and, you know, the stuff that we don't want running off into our properties and subsequently goes into Lake Champlain. And it's an R3 district. I happen to love horses. However, it's zoned residential. So I really I understand what she wants to do. However, I can't get on board with the project. I'm sorry.
All right, we can close the public hearing portion of the meeting then. We read everything into the record, correct?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Board members?
For the record, can you just highlight the reason why it's not allowed if it is allowed to have agricultural based on the current zoning? I mean, at least that's what I'm saying. Yeah, I see that. Or unless I'm reading it wrong, but it says agricultural use is permitted. Am I reading that wrong? It says permitted agricultural use. Unless I got an outdated piece of paper.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the conflict is here, but I'm conflicted as to what we're saying is not allowed, if it is allowed, and just want to clarify that for the meeting.
Use in an area. So.
Well, I mean, the use, it says it's allowed.
Agricultural.
Right, and if you read agricultural, it's pretty clear, it seems to say it's allowed. The definitions, but agricultural use is the use of any land for agricultural purposes, including farming, dairying, pasturing, horticulture, viticulture, and animal and poultry husbandry, including the construction, alteration, and maintenance of agricultural roads, agricultural drainage systems, and farm ponds. An agricultural use is commonly referred to as a farm. So I don't know, one, if there's more we got to read into it, it leaves an ambiguity of the law, which has to go towards the applicant and not us, which is municipality.
So
what am I missing?
agricultural use may be allowed. The agricultural type of use they want to do is not in R3.
Where does it say that?
So if you look under supplemental regulations where it states what zoning districts you can have certain animals and stuff, R3 is not listed, therefore they can't have any farm animals.
Where is that again?
Supplemental uses. First, you go to see where it says subject to site plan review. That's
51.
That's why they're in front of the planning board. We'll try to connect the dots for you. If you look under R.
I'm trying to listen to Alan. And
Page 51, the bottom page. Or from the middle of the page down.
Mm-hmm.
So it says within these districts, these certain farm animals are allowed. So in other words, agricultural use, if you want to farm that land, no problem. You wouldn't be here tonight. But if you want to raise animals on that land, you now have to follow the supplemental guide, which tells you how many animals you can have.
That's a conflict for me, Alan, because the agricultural definition says husbandry and so forth, and now we've got a conflict of two items in our codes that says it's allowed but not allowed.
That's your interpretation. Mine was it's in front of the board, so the supplemental, the way that we treated it is you go from here, it goes through site plan goes to here, it goes from the primary one, what Alan just said, then it goes to the accessory uses. And then that's the way that this is interpreted. That's why it's in front of us. In front of you guys. If you disagree with that, that's.
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand where the conflict comes from, because I'm conflicted with the definition.
That's where it came in. As soon as she said she wanted to
You're
raise
saying that
horses
it's
there,
because of this.
it then triggered this.
My concern is the definition of agriculture says what it says. It doesn't say and then refer to or then, and it doesn't say in here, it doesn't say, it just says agriculture use is allowed. I got a problem with the conflict of the two zoning issues.
We Agriculture.
If it's not clear, and the ambiguity goes to the applicant. So. No.
Did you go
I
right
thought-
to D? Do you read right into D where it says where it's strictly prohibited?
I'm going to,
Yeah, D where it says strictly. If you go to agricultural D, and I'll walk you through it, agricultural uses. So you go to the allowed table, which is R3, then you go to 50, which is 5.10 agricultural uses. Then you read down because you can't skip through, so then you got to hit every single one. Then if you go to D, within A1, A2, NC,
I'm not
RC,
arguing, I'm just
R1.
looking for clarification, Steve.
Yeah. No, I'm trying to walk you from here. So then you go to uses, then you have to go to agricultural uses. So you go back through here, and I just raised my voice like I was Alan. I shouldn't have. I'm gonna bring my tone and tonality down. I apologize for that. Alan's got a deeper voice than me sometimes. So then you go to agriculture uses, 510. Then you go to A. Then you have to go all the way B, C, D, E, all the way through there. Then it gives the definitions of what you can do in each district, or each one's a subclause. So you can't just skip over one. You got to go through it. So then if you go to D, it says, unless otherwise allowed, the terms of the district, keeping of large and small farm animals is prohibited, except if the prohibition does not apply of keeping of 5 or fur-bearing animals. So that's when we have the definition of large and small and fur-bearing. This is how deep, as Bill said, that we have to go this far deep into consultants to make sure that we truly address where our farm animals are and where they're not allowed into denser districts. So this was the consultant of this is the way that you regulate farm animals when, where you can, large and small. So it's clearly defined in here, in my opinion, of agricultural uses, and then each district, what you can and can't have, and even the district of how, or even the distance where manure can be stored 100 feet. No roosters, guineas, fowls, things that in a higher dense district you don't want. That's conflicting of zoning. So they have some good points, but they're right out of our ordinance. Like this is, so if you have a question that I just didn't answer on how you get from a use table to the agricultural use, that's how we go from the table in the back to the actual definitions and restrictions in there.
So that's how we determine that, but as a board, if you guys determine it differently, that's what you're up there for. So if you don't agree with the way we came to this determination, you're the board, you have to discuss amongst yourselves and say, well, it's a different way.
Why isn't it just clear?
All right.
So we can understand.
It's government, nothing's clear.
Yeah, but the ambiguity goes to the applicant.
Now you're
Be
dealing
careful
with
what
all
you're
these
saying.
people.
That's all.
You're trying to
Because
do
if it
the
is
right thing.
ambiguous, then it goes to the applicant and not us.
Well, you clearly go to, that's how we do it though. You go in the back, then you read each section and district has the definition of what's allowed and what's not allowed. All the way down to design guidelines. Even though it's allowed, you'd still have to build it by the design guidelines, which we have several other ones. This is a design guideline, if you will, for agricultural uses. It's the same thing. So it's an allowed, like hunting Nissan's allowed, but in that district, design guidelines. So they're asking for variance. So it's an allowed use, but inside of that allowed use, and it's subject to site plan review, and then it has all the regulations that go along with it. Just not for agriculture uses, R1, R2, R3, neighborhood, commercial. There's allowed uses inside the commercial, but there's design guidelines.
Yet Alan says that they can farm it.
But you gotta, so how there's different ways to
Well,
farm.
you know what I'm saying, it's a confusing matter right now.
So you can farm it, but this is.
Yeah.
So if you wanna,
I can
actually
go
look at
and
it,
plow the land up and
you don't
everything.
look at it as an agricultural use thing, you look at it as a farm animal use. So it's a subcategory of agricultural, that's farm animals, and that's what they're here asking to be granted. I'd like to have farm animals in this agricultural use area.
But the way I read it, what they could do if they want is plow it, till it, plant all kinds of vegetables, and spread manure 3 times a year.
Sure.
Yeah.
And nobody out here can say anything about it.
Then you got all the manure they
They're
don't.
running off.
Because it's not right. Well, it's not
That's
regulated.
that's not a regulated use within agriculture.
Right. So if you're trying to do any of these uses, the animals are regulated, not the agricultural use of a Giroux or anybody else. They could go till it, they could plant corn in there, because that's not clearly regulated in here. Farm animals are.
They could put liquid manure in?
All day.
Oh.
But once you have animals and asking for the animals, what they do, then you fall under agricultural uses. So their uses inside of that agricultural as per R3. And it's also regulated under site plan for barns, because then the site plan that they're in front of the planning board are gonna make sure that all these adhere to. So when that site plan then kicked us back to us saying it's not an allowed use, what they're asking for. The same way with Jelanovich, it's no different than the one that just left. It's not an allowed use, so they're asking for a variance for car sales or.
Yeah, but it's not listed in the uses, I'm not sure. Just didn't lead me to that.
Yes, first one's on the second one. Third one. Three. So we could hear it.
That's just one point. So I don't know what other 4 points you gotta discuss, but it just,
When you look at the balancing test,
13 meters.
you're talking about cannot realize a reasonable return.
The other 10's.
And to a certain extent, it's not applicable.
You gotta meet it, it's gotta hit 4.
Financial evidence, all we have is that you're paying $1,200 for. The alleged hardship is unique and does not apply to a substantial portion of the district or neighborhood. And some acres of the area. And requested variance will not alter essential character of the probably wouldn't apply. And the alleged hardship is not self-created. The other thing we're gonna have to do is do a secret first, right?
you have to go that far?
We would have to go through secret first, right?
Yes.
You have the short one?
I have the short form right here, it was filled out. So we can go from. Where's all your- Short form is filled out. So we're gonna do the impact right there. So the short, you guys did have the short form. So we're gonna do the part 2.
So that would be for the building,
I'll read the questions and then you guys can discuss them and tell us your answers.
but if we deny the first one, are we doing
We
them
have
both?
to have the secret first before we can do the
Use.
That's what
use variance.
The use is first.
Uses first, okay.
So this secret pertains only to the use.
Okay.
Will the proposed action create a material conflict with an adopted land use plan or zoning regulation? No or small impact or moderate to large impact?
Well, yeah, wouldn't isn't that why we're here?
That is correct.
Well, I had one gentleman saying, no, small, I have another one saying large, so.
So you paid the big bucks?
So as a board, how do you feel on that one? What's your level?
Can you read the
Well, I've
question?
already made my statement.
Will the proposed action create a material conflict with an adopted land use plan or zoning regulation?
Yeah, it does. The question is,
They all
is it
do.
small or is it large?
The proposed action is the barn, not the horses.
I thought we had to do the use first.
Oh, the proposed action is the horses, not the barn. So that's the question you're considering.
Right.
Yeah. I don't think it's large.
I don't think it's large.
Okay. You didn't have an
I'm in
opinion?
between.
And in the
I think it's
neighborhood,
small,
you
but I
already
don't
got
think it's
the,
large.
you got barns
Well,
everywhere, so.
Yeah. None too small. And
Because you
then
got people
large.
saying their land will never be
Yeah, I go medium to.
They wanna preserve the land. Just can't use it.
We're going no to small.
No small on that one? Marked. 2, will the proposed action result in a change in the use or intensity of use of land? No to small impact or moderate to large impact?
I'm noticing 3 acres out of 13 to my thinking.
Yeah, that's a small use.
But we're talking about the whole land, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
The whole 13, well, is it it's
No,
merged,
agreed.
right?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
it's the whole property.
Small.
Okay. So I'm marking small, or notice small. 3, will the proposed action impair the character or quality of the existing community? No to small impact, moderate to large impact.
Large.
Small.
Man, please.
100% small.
Small impact. Let's say small.
I'm leaning towards large.
I think large is for medium.
Yeah, medium.
Okay, we got 3 large.
Okay.
I want fries with that. They go on the record.
Proposed action, Jim.
I need to explain why.
So anything that's moderate to large, you need to explain why. We need to write it down on the back of the form.
There you go.
Because then it triggers a part 3 in the determination.
So for every question in part 2 that was answered moderate to large, or if there is a need to explain why a particular element of the proposed action may or will not result in a significant adverse environmental impact, please complete part 3. Part 3 should in sufficient detail identify the impact, including any measures or design elements that have been included by the project sponsor to avoid or reduce impacts. Part 3 should also explain how the lead agency determined that the impact may or will not be significant. Each potential impact should be assessed considering its setting, probability of occurring, duration, irreversibility, geographic scope, and magnitude. Also consider the potential for short-term, long-term, and cumulative impacts. So if you're saying there will be a moderate to large impact for the question, will the proposed action impair the character or quality of the existing community? You need to explain why.
My thought process on that one was just simply because of manure and runoff and affecting land from there.
Then you need to explain any measures or design elements that have been included by the project sponsor to avoid or reduce those impacts.
And
She has the manure containment system.
So I'm writing manure runoff, and what was the other one?
So you're saying it's a large impact. What you're saying is her proposed manure management, you don't feel will work the way she says it is.
Well, I thought it was explaining
Well,
how they're gonna
right.
avert that.
Right, but so if you're saying moderate to large impact, what you're saying is you believe there's this impact, the project has proposed to do certain things to lessen the impact, but you don't believe what the project is proposing is gonna lessen the impact enough.
Just what
Well, I don't see how we're experts in that. I really don't.
we're not.
Well, that's why they're asking. If you say it's large, explain to us why you feel it's large.
You can't feel.
And
I've been told by attorneys.
explain why you think it's large, and then you have to explain why you think the proposed measures from the applicant will not reduce that impact.
Well, I don't know if they will or won't. So, what am I supposed to say?
Small to
Go
medium.
ahead.
Well, small to medium, right? It's medium, not large.
It's none to small, moderate to large. I'm not, I guess I'm looking at the moderate impact that's gonna happen. But that's just,
Right, but I mean, you're giving yourself, man, there's 3 of you that vote that way. 2 other people need to speak up. Why do you feel it? You gotta explain why you feel it's large, opposed to it's small to none. There's gotta be a
The
reason.
thing is, we don't have any evidentiary data to say otherwise. And to do so would be more feeling based on hypotheticals and not facts. And I have a problem with that, but.
I would rather have somebody who knows what they're talking about.
Yeah, but we're talking hypothetical either way. Somebody'd have to do a study to say that any impact of the question is gonna run from this end of the property and run 13 acres, or whatever that distance is, through the grass and everything else, and it's gonna end up somewhere. And I don't know that anybody can do that.
Or you can state, you think will mitigate that. So if you think that system doesn't work, but you'd feel better if she did something like 100 feet from her fence line, which is probably still 300 feet from the back of their houses, there needs to be a 1-foot ditch that runs all the way across there. It's going to stop anything from going down to their houses, manure and everything else, and it's going to go someplace else. you can suggest that. That's how you mitigate. If she does something like that, then
I
it would
still
be a
think
large.
that's beyond our expertise.
I don't disagree. But there is, if there's a question saying that all manure must be brought off site. That could be a simple thing, that no manure is stored on site, it's all brought off site. If that's so to take you from that impact that wasn't done, a solution to the problem, why it's major, and you were correct, and you can say exactly what you did. I don't feel comfortable with being an expert at manure management, storage, removal.
Then you wouldn't be able to dictate how it gets handled, because then you'd be making an assumption that you know that that's gonna handle it better than not.
You don't know what this is gonna be.
That's right, but we don't know. There's nothing here evidentiary showing otherwise.
So I'm
Is there any-
curious, are those containment systems out in the open where rain comes down on them and it just
No,
seeps out
they'll
the
be
bottom?
covered. I'm gonna, usually you do put a tarp cover on them. You can build a top cover for them. I'd be fine with doing that. I'm fine with completely enclosing it.
Mm-hmm.
That was my whole reason why I liked the bar system, because I wanna make sure nothing is coming out. And if the nitrates start, like let's say it does get a little damp and the nitrates do somehow manage, that's where that vegetative buffer comes in to absorb the nitrates and the phosphorus. And that was kind of my big thing for what I'm planning on doing. I figured this two-pot process and, regular field management, that's another reason why for the paddocks, they're gonna be on geogrids with the sand, cause that will be picked regularly. And then of course they go out for pasture for their normal grazing.
I guess my
So how
statement
many-
would be is that they don't always control where they
Oh,
discharge.
Yeah.
So how many pounds a day do you figure
50.
you get?
It's 50 for full-size horse a day. That's not including like bedding. I'm planning, like if this were to go through, I wanna put a stall system in. I know that sounds like it's a mattress that you put in the stall. It allows you, to use less bedding. Less bedding that I have is also less manure. At least I should say for my own system, my own composting. The less I have to compost, the quicker I can compost it.
That's
Public hearing's over.
I just had a question, since new information is being given, is it rebuttable by the public?
No. The public is to give their comment, how they feel, not to question back and forth with the applicant or the board. So you gave your feelings to them. They can discuss, you're here to listen to hear what they have to say. Your question may get answered as they keep talking, but not for you to ask a question.
I just thought because new information is coming up.
You know what? As a side note, we're looking for alternates to be on the board if you.
Yes, we
You
are.
wanna volunteer?
More than happy to have you on board.
Okay, thank you.
So we gotta get over this question.
Yeah, we do.
Well, I've given my response. Roger doesn't have the technical
We can say,
expertise.
we can put each one, no response, or if Marianne has one, we can put that, a response, no response is a response.
Well,
Or
I would
feeling
just
not,
say that if it's a covered system, with the climate change and the rains we're having, if it's a covered system, you're a lot better off than having 3 trays open and having all of that
Right.
leach down, so
Yeah, the middle
that would
one
mitigate a lot.
does show closed system, but I can also, if you guys were to want it even greater, you name it, I'll do it for that.
I don't have the expertise.
We do it all.
I'm serious.
So are you changing to all the? No, I mean, Marianne.
If it's covered, in other words, if it was sheltered, not just with a tarp, but if it was actually covered where rain could not access any of that, because a drying process, when you're dealing with any kind of manure, is a lot better than having some slime build up, and that's when you're gonna have the problem.
You only want it once it gets too hot. If it gets too hot, you have to add water because otherwise you start killing too much bacteria.
Mm-hmm.
So occasionally you gotta sprinkle it, but I completely agree with that, and heck, if I could get it covered, I'll do that.
So is the choice of the board to note a small impact on the condition that if this is approved, the manure management system needs to be completely enclosed and covered?
That's what Mary Ann is saying, that's what I'm also saying.
Again, this is for the seeker, this isn't even the balancing.
Right, I know. And I'm just looking at it saying that horses just don't do their duty where they
Yeah,
are
you
going to
clean
be.
up after it.
Yeah, but it's out in the pens, otherwise you don't even know what happened.
Yeah, but if you're looking at your property and it's, how many horses? 1, 2?
4.
There's 4, but one's a mini, the other one's older. Honestly, I sometimes wonder if she will be joining us.
But if you do your diligence and it's cleaned
Yeah.
every day or whatever, you could.
Yeah, you can get an attachment for the 4-wheeler, you drive it around, and it cleans up your pastures. It's really cool. I haven't looked into one just because I don't have a place to start, but sorry.
So what we did is, we left it as a moderate to large, but the mitigation for that would be, as Mary Ann said, it needs to be covered. So it has to have some kind of cover where rain doesn't fall straight into it. That's what we wrote on the back.
Okay.
So basically, you're making conditions of approval, even though you still feel it was a large concern.
Next question.
One moment, Mr. Chairman, I actually have to stop our video and start a new one because the time has elapsed.
Okay.
Not doing well on time management, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah. Anybody want to repeat this?
Stay right there.